Hello, welcome back to my channel, Kenneth Allen Barker. Please remember to subscribe and share. Today I'm here to give you my reaction review of Star Trek Discovery Season 3 finale. It's going to be more of a recap of the last 3 episodes rather than a watch-along review. I've seen all 3 episodes, and I'm going to kind of go over my opinion and observations of that using photos from the clips rather than actual video. I'm still kind of new at this, and I haven't figured out how to really get any video of televised or movie recordings without getting a copyright takedown or anything like that. So I'm going to use photos instead. If you're a fan, you've probably already seen the episode. If not, this will give you some information, maybe a quick recap of the last couple episodes. And let's get started. The final 3 episodes are kind of like one long storyline, continuing on from the whole year, really. There was a continuing storyline of Osyraa, someone who's part of a syndicate that controls a big part of the galaxy where the Federation doesn't have any influence. And of course, the crew of Discovery has gotten on her bad side, clashed a couple times, and somehow she has found out that they have a spore drive. I'm not exactly clear how she even found that out, but of course, since it allows travel from any part of the galaxy to another instantly, she obviously wants that. So the main part of these episodes is she's tracked them down, and she's going to try to get that spore drive. So the Discovery has found a planet that is almost completely made out of dilithium, the crystals that are, or stones, crystals, that are used for powering warp drive and pretty much every starship in the galaxy. And since the burn, which we found out, I believe, last season, that destroyed, or was it just earlier this season? I'm getting them confused already. I guess it was just all this season. That all ships that had an active warp drive pretty much got destroyed when all the dilithium crystals essentially exploded for some unknown reason. And the Discovery has essentially tracked that reason down, found this planet that was the cause of the burn, and of course they're going to try to figure out what happened, keep it from happening again, and hopefully solve the problem so ships can start to travel at warp again. On the planet, they find another Kelpian, which is the same race as the captain of the Discovery, Saru, who has been stranded on this planet inside a crashed ship for like 125 years since he was a little child. And he has been raised inside of a holodeck program that his mother was able to get created before she died that would help take care of him. As the ship is hanging around in the nebula, they can't stay too close to the planet, but they're as close as they can be. Osyraa's ship shows up, and I apologize for the photo. It was a very dark scene. You can barely see the ship out of the background space there, but somehow she was able to track them down, and she shows up. She supposedly took a transwarp conduit to get there, although I guess they're very dangerous in this area. And one of my problems with this is, how did she even know that they have the spore drive? I think she may have seen them disappear in one of the previous episodes, and book mentions at a time that she would have been able to hone in on that and maybe get a signature out of it. But they never really said, I don't think. And how would she know what it was? Although she does have a very smart scientist with her, and maybe he found it out. But I don't think they make it super clear in the show. So I'm kind of, when I'm watching, I'm like, how did she even, find them? How did she know about it? And then as stuff is going on between their ship and Discovery, they go back to the planet, and the team is finding out more about this child. And there's an awful lot that takes place on this planet. I found this mostly pretty boring. Of course, we find some stuff out that he is actually the one who caused the burn. Being raised there, born and raised there, he somehow has some kind of a connection to dilithium. And when he found that his mother had died, and I think even a recording about that, of course that devastated him. And when he gets frightened or devastated or emotionally upset, he can cause like energy disruptions, and that's actually what caused the burn. So they do find that out, but there's an awful lot of time down on this planet talking. Got this guy who still has a childhood-like mentality because he wasn't really raised correctly, and I didn't like a lot of this. Back on Discovery, Osyraa and Tilly have the little verbal sparring that you have to have with any kind of Star Trek confrontation. And during these kind of situations, I think Tilly could try to channel some of her mirror self that she portrayed in the first season of Discovery. She pulled off being a ruthless badass pretty well when she needed to there. So she should remember that and try to pull from or channel that a little bit when she's in situations like this. Because she really didn't do very well. Osyraa knew that she had them overmatched and outgunned and everything, and she's like, I'm coming to get you. And as part of that, her ship has some kind of tentacles that come out that everyone is surprised by. Of course, I don't know if we know a whole lot about her ship and its capabilities, but I also wonder if this is something that the one pirate that she picked up that we met in like the second episode where Tilly and Saru ran into on the planet and kind of left him for dead. Wonder if he helped give her some of this technology from the ice planet that was there. Although it obviously doesn't look like ice, but the way it moved in that was similar to how ice engulfed the ship, and just trying to figure out, how they have this kind of tentacle capability where they can grab the ship. And when they did start to take over the ship, they were able to beam in without any problem. For a while, they were cloaked, but I don't think they were cloaked at this point. But they knew right where to go. I didn't like that. This is a 1,000-year-old starship. And even if you knew the basics of a Federation starship, things definitely have changed. And they were even able to beam right inside the pod that he uses to jump the ship. So that was a little too convenient, them being able to go right exactly where they needed to, and be able to take over the ship quite easily, actually. And then, again, as they're taking over the ship, they're able to say that they were able to completely take over their computer systems and integrate them or change them into their own, which also, how could they do that? You would essentially destroy the ship, the way it works. You would just start using the ship the way it is. You would do something to maybe lock them out, try to lock out people. But the way they describe it seems like a total takeover, which is something that gets mentioned in other movies also. One that comes right to the top of my head is Iron Man 2, when Hammer gets a hold of an Iron Man suit. One of the first things he says he does is he's going to upgrade the operating system. He couldn't do that. It wouldn't work. You can't throw in an operating system of your own on top of something so specialized. So that kind of bothered me as well. Now, as they took over the ship, they actually did seem quite good about not hurting anybody. I don't believe they killed anybody, and they were saying several times they weren't going to hurt people, and Osyraa was like, don't hurt people, we want them alive, and that they were going to use them as leverage. So kind of surprised and wondering what was going on there. And it turns out that she took Discovery to the Federation, not just as an attack, as you would think, but she took it as a way to get in to start a negotiation where she can get her organization to become part of Starfleet, or Starfleet become part of them, that they could work together, because she knew that things weren't going to continue to work well the way that she's been doing them and confronting Starfleet all the time. So even when this was going on, you've got to think, is this some kind of a trap? Or something else that she's trying to do? But as they go by, it seems to be what she was actually doing. She had some kind of an armistice all drawn up that actually seemed pretty legit, even to Admiral Vance here. And that only fell apart when he started to describe that she would not be able to be involved because of her such violent history. He would have to have someone else represent her organization, and he even wanted to prosecute her for her crimes. And she didn't like that very well, so she stormed off in a huff about that, saying, you're going to regret it. And then she was going to start to take over. Back on Discovery, the crew was able to start overpowering and taking back the ship. Then they go back down to the planet again, and there may have been some jumping around in between the photos I've shown and the description I've given so far. Like I said, I didn't like most of that, so I'm skipping most of that. But they were back on the planet, trying to get him to understand that they are from the outside world now, and they're trying to get him to leave. And back with Discovery now trying to leave the Federation home base inside the shield. Now, of course, they're probably not going to try to destroy Discovery right away, but there's 10, 20 more ships surrounding Discovery. And yeah, they were going to also fight her ship outside of the shield soon, but they were fighting Discovery inside the shields for quite a while, and they could quite, I believe, much easier been able to disable the ship than what they were showing. And while they're in there, she's like, hey, target this particular part at some weird coordinates that she named that, aren't normally the way you hear coordinates given for space shows. And she says that it's the primary shield being disguised as a secondary deflector. How would she know that? Yeah, she's smart in that, but it's not like she had days in that to start analyzing what's going on. She wasn't in battle most of the time. She was in negotiations. So now she comes in and she's like, oh, target this area. I know that that's actually the primary shield generator. So didn't like that. Another much too convenient thing. One thing I did think that looked cool in this episode is they show the shields being almost skin tight on the ships, rather than in the Star Trek we're used to. The ship's shields are a large area around the starships or star bases or whatever you might be talking about that has shields. So seeing this is kind of cool. I do wonder, though, if they have the ability to extend them differently. The thing you see in a lot of Star Trek shows is ships will extend their shields around other ships for various reasons. And if the shields are only skin tight, you'll lose that kind of capability. As they are escaping, someone does eventually, so on the ship, the crew finally does more or less take control, and they put an explosive to destroy or at least somehow cripple one of the warp nacelles. And I have that circled here in red because it's kind of hard to tell, even with the new refit they have, where the nacelles are not permanently attached, which is another cool thing, but not really sure how that technology works or why they would even do it for most ships. On Book's ship and some other ones that actually change their shape a lot, that could be understandable, but on a ship like this, not exactly sure what the benefits to that are. I think they might throw in something that it does allow maybe the fluctuation of the warp field in that, but not really sure about that. But as that breaks off, they start to lose their direction inside the warp conduit. And here's them completely starting to turn to the side as they've lost their warp and they're about to fall out. Now, usually, situations like this, the ship is going to get destroyed. But they just show it pop out like it just stopped traveling at warp speed. But generally speaking, that's going to destroy a ship, losing your direction like that. I think they've done it in a couple other ship shows, Star Trek episodes. But generally speaking, anytime a ship is gone like that, it gets destroyed. And for kind of the final battle between Burnham and Osyraa, they're in some kind of an engineering or other control station. And there just happens to be this wall of programmable matter, I guess. That's what this is. They don't really point out what it is, but the wall, it's almost like a live kind of way that they show the programmable matter in the various episodes. And other than being one of the plot things where this allows Osyraa to be able to push Burnham into this material, which she's going to think is going to kill her or trap her somehow or another. And of course, Burnham is able to kind of come out enough and shoot and kill Osyraa. But I don't like how that was just there and they did that. And then after everything is back okay, she's having a conversation with Admiral Vance, and he mentions how you don't really do things the Starfleet way, but they work. So good on you, and sometimes maybe even the Federation could learn from them. And since Saru is going to take time off to work with Sukara, or whatever the name of the Kelpian that they found on the planet, he offers Burnham the captain's chair for Discovery, at least for the time that Saru is gone. And of course, she has to accept. There's really no other option. We were pretty much leading up to this, the whole series, like all 3 series, not just season 3, but to her probably being a captain somehow or another. And of course, they get new uniforms. but everything all ends on nice and happy that way. And now they are off to distribute the dilithium that they're able to get from this planet now and start giving it to all the other either Starfleet worlds or other worlds that haven't been able to travel at warp for so long, and they can start rebuilding Starfleet. And the problem I have with this is they leave the shields and they warp away, which is a standard Star Trek ending to an episode or a movie, but they're going places they can't reach by warp. They should have jumped with the mycelial system, the way that the ship is meant to travel. So there we go. That is season 3 and my season 3 finale recap, review, and reaction video for Star Trek Discovery season 3. I like the season in general. These last 3 episodes, there was a lot of time spent on the planet that I didn't like. A couple things really too convenient for the bad guy to be able to take over the starship. But I did like the season in general. I'm looking forward to next year. And I'm also looking forward to the Star Trek Where No Man Has Gone Before series that hopefully will be coming out. They'll be able to get out soon. And they're coming out with a couple other series of Star Trek. So next year, or I guess I should say later this year, or maybe next year. Some of them might not even come out until 2022. Looks like we've got some good stuff to look forward to. So again, thank you very much for tuning in to my channel. Hopefully subscribe and share, and see you next time.